So relax. And for more than one reason. Relax because we're starting a long discussion of a topic, and there's no need to rush. The topic is death, and not the topic that we might choose first as easy conversation, but there's no need to rush here. So let's relax for that reason. Let's relax because we have a brief reading, which is very clear, I think, and simple in the best way of simple, and that we can easily comprehend and think about and evaluate, and by evaluate I mean decide whether it's true, and decide whether it's helpful to us, and decide whether or not we agree with the author. And relax for a third reason, and that has to do with the content of this letter, the letter to Menicius, or Menoicus, Menicius or Menoicus, however you want to pronounce it, it's fine. This letter that Epicurus wrote, I suppose, to a young friend, giving him advice, or her advice. Relax, because he would say relax. Relax. You're a human being. You are in control of your destiny. You, as he reminds us, live in a world that is ruled and ordered by just gods, or God. Doesn't really matter. But benevolent gods, benevolent forces control this world. And there's no need to panic for any reason, especially we see about death. As we'll see later on in the things that we read, that it's quite natural for a modern philosopher to isolate a topic like death and to start to really give minute attention and analysis to a single isolated topic. That was not, in my experience, that it was not the practice of the ancient world, especially if that topic was something like death, which was of immediate human ethical concern. The tendency in the ancient world was to try to fit everything into a whole, this is most true, I think, of Aristotle's work, where he tries to talk about everything, and he tries to talk about everything in connection with everything. But at least you can see that tendency to holism here in Epicurus, in the sense that if you're going to talk about what death is and how we should regard it, you should have something to say about life too. And although in this letter, in this text, it's obviously the third paragraph, which is where he focuses on death, and that's what we're most interested in. He says, yes, in that third paragraph, towards the end of it on page 2, he says, the same exercise at once teaches to live well and to die well. That is, Epicurus saw the topic of death as a topic in the philosophy of life. That is, no, it was not something to be isolated and thought about. It was something to be fit into a whole philosophy of life. Now, what is that philosophy of life? Well, if we know the word Epicureanism, then that's passed for a long time into modern parlance. I mean, to be an Epicurean in the popular sense of the word is to be a person devoted to pleasure, and that is what Epicurus says we should be. He says on page 2 in the last paragraph, a long paragraph there, he says, we call pleasure the alpha and omega of a happy life, the beginning and end of a happy life. Pleasure is our first and kindred good. It is the starting point of every choice and of every aversion, and to it we come back, inasmuch as we make feeling the rule by which to judge of every good thing. So pleasure, he says, is the point of life. If happiness is the point of life, and only pleasure brings happiness, then we naturally pursue pleasure, and we should. We want to be happy. It's what our nature disposes us to. Now, he's very clear that not every pleasure should be pursued, and not every pain should be avoided. That sometimes we forego pleasures because they bring pains later on, and sometimes we voluntarily experience pains because of the pleasures they bring later on, and that's something that we have to deal with, and dealing with that is what he calls the virtue of prudence later on. So we're relaxed. We're meant to be happy, and happiness is within our power. We can be happy if we learn, if we get our thoughts straight and live rightly, which is something that is within our power. He denies that we are simply the pawns of fate. This was the discussion at the end, denying what the naturalist philosophers say about determinism. That is, we're not purely determined. We have choice in our lives. So if that's so, and if we're trying to be happy and be wise, and be good, and as you said, we have to be happy, how do we deal with the subject of death? And that is the focus of the third paragraph. So let's devote another short video to that. Let's regard this video as an introduction or thinking about what Epicurus's larger outlook is, and within that larger outlook, which is again one that says that we're meant to be happy, and we're meant to be happy through the experience of pleasure. How do we deal with what we know to be our inevitable death, our mortality? How does that fit into the picture?